So I actually own a property, which I get the rent from each month coming in, which is handy.
So how much rent do you get every month?
About 1,300.
And what would that money go on?
Drugs. From a place called Moor Park, near Watford in Hertfordshire. Pretty sort of middle class childhood. Mum and dad and a brother.
And what was your education like growing up?
It was all right. I probably got sent to the wrong schools. They're quite academic, and I wasn't the most academic, but I got myself good at sport, so ended up getting a sports scholarship to a place called Aldenham School for cricket, football, and hockey. So,
and what was your relationships like with women growing up?
with women, pretty good. Yeah. I had a nice mum. She was adopted into a nice family, luckily, because an English officer went over and slept with an Irish lady, and she had to be sent over and adopted. And yeah, she was a nice lady. Didn't go on fine with women.
And then what was your teenage years life like?
Once I hit puberty, I just went fucking mad. Really, I just went, drinking, drugs, everything. Started smoking weed. Firstly, smoking weed when I was 13, and then went up to almost everything else from there.
And what's your life like today?
Today, homeless, cracking heroin addict. It's pretty tough at the moment.
And how have you got involved in that life, Tom?
So I first smoked heroin when I was about 17, 18, because my friend was staying around my house, and he'd offered me, I'd had a few drinks. He'd offered it to me a few times. He said, "Oh, do you want to try this?" I said, No. And then I tried it the once when he was staying around, and I was hooked immediately.
And ever since?
And then I was hooked for a couple of years, and I went to rehab, and then I was clean for 7 years, and then went back to it. I thought, I've been off it for 7 years. I'll be able to do it again, and it'd stop. But again, as soon as I did it again, I was hooked.
How much did that rehab cost?
That was a lot. That was a lot of money. I don't know exactly how much.
And how many times have you been to rehab?
5 times. I know one of them. I think it's about 50,000. The Priory.
And today, so how do you feed your addiction at the moment?
How do I what say?
Feed your addiction.
Basically, at the moment, asking people for money outside the station, and saying I need money for a hostel for the night, and then get enough money and go off and score. Begging, basically.
And how much do you make a day begging?
£200-300.
And where do you sleep currently?
At the moment, I sleep outside across station.
And what's been the worst experience you've had while being homeless?
I'll tell you what the worst experience is. I was staying in a place called Rainers Lane, behind a window company place, and I'd made myself a little, like a mini hut thing. I'd put a door like this, resting against something, and then there was a mattress lying there. And the owner of the shop woke me up by throwing a bucket of water over me. And that is one hell of a way to wake up. When you first wake up, you... So, yeah, that was probably the worst experience.
And tell me about, because you've got a very, I guess, different situation to most who are homeless. So I'm aware you actually own a house.
Yeah.
What's the situation there then, Dom?
So my dad, when a girlfriend of mine got pregnant with my first son, she actually asked my dad if he could help us out with buying a house, so we could have our, house, family. And I'd asked him before if he'd help me out, but he wouldn't. So he immediately said yes to her, and basically bought us a house, outright. He bought his house outright, and yeah, and then it's now put in my name. So I actually own a property, which I get the rent from each month coming in, which is handy.
So how much rent do you get every month?
About 1,300.
And what would that money go on?
Drugs.
Do you see a way out of your situation at the moment, Dom?
Yeah. Probably not completely corpus mentis because of the amount of drugs I do. So my decision making is definitely a bit hazed, but yeah.
And since you've been homeless, have you had any support from friends and family?
Amazingly, not particularly, no. I mean, in the beginning, my dad would, because once I'd spent all my money, my dad would help out a little bit, but now no help at all.
And how much?
Literally zero.
At first, when your dad was helping you, how much was he helping with?
Well, a few £100s at a time, or sometimes a bit more.
And what would you say is the worst memory of your life?
Actually, I remember when I was a kid, my mum sent me and my brother to these swimming lessons. And I remember the teacher, she was a strange old woman, and she sort of dunked me and my brother's heads under the water and held us under the water. And it was, at the time when you're a child, it was terrifying, stuck underwater. So yeah, that was pretty spooky.
And how much are you spending currently, Dom, daily on heroin and crack?
£200-300
A day?
A day, yeah. If I get whatever money I get, pretty much I'll spend all of it on drugs.
If you had one wish, Dom, what would that be?
Oh, that's a good question. To probably just live a normal life, not reliant on crack and heroin. Just live a normal life, really. But then again, what is normal? Normal's different for everyone. So,
where do you think you'll be in 12 months' time, Dom?
I have no idea. No idea.
And could you get, obviously, £1,300 a month from your property? How are the other people on the streets towards you?
How are they towards me?
Yeah.
Fine, because most of them get the PIP. Is it the PIP? They're fine. Some of them are a little bit envious, They sort of their little comments now and again. I'll tell you what. There you go. That was on. Yeah, most fine really. Some quite good friends of them, so they know the situation. They, like I said, they get money from the government as well each month, so they're fine.
And what's the worst memory of you being on the streets?
Clucking, when you're just cold, wet and hungry. You got no money. At the time, you got no money, and then just the feeling of clucking when it's probably like the flu times 100.
For those who don't know what clucking is, can you explain what that is, Don?
Yeah, when you're withdrawing from heroin and your body just aches, you feel cold, you're shivering, you can't stop your legs moving, you feel miserable, you've got no energy, you can hardly move. Just withdraw when your body starts needing more opiate, heroin, basically.
And how many children do you have, Don?
3.
And what's your relationship like?
At the moment, not the best because of the situation I'm in.
How does that make you feel?
Not good. So you end up with a vicious circle because I'm doing that. It's not the best for So you end up just doing more or you don't. Whichever way you look at it. Yeah, I don't know. It's not the best.
And considering you have a home but you're homeless, have you ever thought about just moving into that house?
Yeah, I've thought about selling it because of the memories I have of having my first child there and then getting a new place, which I might well do. It seems probably mad to most people that I've got that, but then again, if I get once I get the money for the property, that's quite a dangerous situation. A lot of money to have.
How much is the house worth?
It's about 530,000,
And it's mortgage free.
mortgage free.
You seem like a nice guy, man.
I think most addicts are. They're just misunderstood, or have had a bad thing happen to them in life, or events that happen to them in life. They just can't either get out of their head, or they just completely fall into taking drugs and can't get off of it, and they just carry on a vicious circle.
It's interesting to say that. So what would be the memory for you
Oh, what? Sorry.
that's made you go down that path?
I think a few things. When I had my first child, I was clean at the time, and then it was all fine. And then I'd go out like at that time. I'd go out drinking on the weekend, and get into a bit of trouble. And then I started getting couldn't see my son as much. And then I wouldn't be drinking or doing drugs or anything, and then I'd still get labelled as being irresponsible and all the rest of it. But I think most people in the country go out drinking on the weekends. So that, if you do it or you don't do it, you still get the same result. So.
And how are you going to spend the rest of this evening, Dom?
Probably doing what I do every day, smoking. Yeah.
That's a shame, man.
Yeah. Well, I have to at the moment because I'm addicted to it. So if I don't, then I'll just be clucking my arse off.
Dom, what would you say is the most amount of money you've ever spent on heroin and crack in a short period of time?
15,000 pounds in 1 month, staying in a hotel with my girlfriend. My girlfriend at the time, who was using as well, and used to get the drugs delivered every day. Wouldn't even have to really go anywhere. Just stay in a hotel. Yeah, about 15,000.
What? That's mind-blowing.
That's a lot of money. But when you're doing it, you don't realise. When you're fully addicted to drugs, excuse me, you have no idea how much money you're spending. It just doesn't. It's like when people drinking. Or people who can relate to this, when they're in a bar drinking on the weekend and they've got their card and they're just tapping their card, no idea how much money they're spending. They're not keeping tabs of it. When the more they drink, and the same with drugs, you don't really keep tabs of it. You're just spending.
Dom, what would you say is the biggest regret of your life?
Probably saying yes. Probably to smoking heroin in the first place.